I'm Mike Kendronakis, and I'm in North Creek, New York, which is in the Adirondacks, and I'm at Basil and Wick's Pub and Restaurant. I left this morning from Astoria, New York, and drove up I-87 right up to Schroon Lake, and then took 24 west across the mountainous terrain into Olmstedville. When I made it to Olmstedville, having seen the sun just once on my trip up, I encountered drizzle rain. But at that gas stop, I encountered a very nice person named Lisa, who knew about the eclipse and is part of preparations with the Chamber of Commerce and a Dark Sky Society to plan for this eclipse, to encourage people to come up here. And I encourage it because it is the fastest destination from New York City. I made it here in an hour and a half, into this part interior, maybe 3 hours and 15 minutes. But what's unique about this place is that it actually is gorgeous, because it has mountains and babbling brooks and rivers and trees and everything nature can offer. Gore Mountain's here, the ski resort, and the summertime has its fishing and the lakes and boating and canoeing. And here I am at Basil and Wick's restaurant. And when I was in there having my dinner, a cheeseburger and a Guinness beer, and a woman came up to me and said, "Are you the Eclipse guy?" And I said, "Excuse me? How did you know that?" And she said, "It's a small town." I said, "My God, a small town." She goes, "No, Lisa called me. Lisa's my friend, and told me you're up here reconnoitering, scouting, or trying to attempt to see the eclipse 5 years out, exactly to the date and time." And I almost made it, because we saw sun, and it did show blue skies afterward, but the clearing did not get over the Adirondack Mountains as it did near the shores of Lake Ontario, Syracuse, Rome, Oswego, and such. Most likely had clear skies. At least that's what the satellite photographs have shown me. And that's what you can do the night before or the morning of. You can look at the satellite images, and like I was saying, New York State is this huge state of mobility, and if we're from New York with the millions of people, you need to heed my advice, which I didn't do. I really wanted to go over to Syracuse and go by Lake Ontario, and as printed today in Forbes.com, Jamie Carter had quoted me what I said about I-90 being able to take you as far as Syracuse all the way to Niagara Falls. So somewhere there's going to be an opening. And this year was like the worst year, probably the worst year that I'll ever be in 100 years, with clouds along the entire Gulf Stream from Canada all the way down to Texas. It was Texas that is the favorite of San Antonio and Austin and such. Those are the favorites in America, and they did well. Probably Dallas did well too. Of course, Mexico is great, and everybody's going to Mexico, all the science and such. But for those of us in the United States, or those of us who are in New York or the Metropolis, we need to drive and go very cheaply and do it in a day or maybe one night, and come to the place like here in the Adirondacks, where they have 660 rooms just over here, and like another 100 rooms over there, because they have the mountain. You got Lake George. You've got all this stuff, and fun. And this is a shoulder season, so there's not much happening now. You had the winter of all the skiing, but now then you have the summer of the camping and the dark skies. Oh, dark skies by Indian Lake and that Canada wilderness over here. It has to be number 3 of the darkest skies east of the Mississippi. You've got West Virginia, Cherry Springs in Pennsylvania, which is halfway to Cleveland from New York, and then here in the Adirondacks. And I wish I'd come more here to the Adirondacks to know it. 4 hours away from New York. I've gone to Cherry Springs many times. Anyway, here's my time and chance to do it, and I find it to be a great place, and I've had fun already and met some very interesting people. But my attempt to do so did not work. Had I gone to Lake Ontario and made that turn at 90, I would have made it. But I left too late. I left at 11:16 a.m. and I made it here by 3 o'clock p.m. and totality began at 3:26. 3:26 over by Schroon Lake, actually by Olmstedville, where I was at Sullivan Shops, where I met Lisa, and it was drizzling, and it would have only been 1 minute there. And I am outside the path of totality here in Basil and Wick. But if you just go just a mile this way, you're in totality, and you get so many seconds. Another couple of miles, you get a minute, and then more than that, 3 minutes. So it goes much deeper, much faster, and there's lots to enjoy here. And if you're looking for the cheap way out, and if you live in New York or the metropolitan region, this is the place to go. You're going to have to take off that Monday to see it, because it's going to happen here about 3:26 p.m.